everyone. Today I'm listening to another band which is brand new to me, and that is the Alan Parsons Project. And what I'm listening to today are two songs, but I understand that they're always played one and then the other. So they kind of come as a set, maybe almost as not quite a suite, because there's more than two songs in a suite, but kind of the same idea that they belong together. So that's why I'm listening to Sirius and Eye in the Sky from 1982, and I'll treat it as a complete work, the two of them together. The Alan Parsons Project were a British rock duo formed in London in 1975. The instrumental piece Sirius segues into Eye in the Sky on the album. Okay, that's why they're always treated as a set. Let's see how it sounds. Okay, so we have this. Ooh, it's really growing. That's Baroque-like. Getting an interesting idea. This is interesting. Okay, so I need to tell you what's going through my mind. So I said it sounds kind of Baroque. That da 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 da. It really could be a harpsichord figure there, and that started me thinking, oh, this would be interesting. This bomb could be a sort of organ pedal tone, and then we have the harpsichord. It would be fun to treat it in a really Baroque style with Baroque instruments, and it could work. And then as it progressed, it got a little bit too non-Baroque in its form and design, and I started thinking, oh, well, it could be done kind of like Respighi treated ancient airs and dances with a sort of kind of romantic Baroque aesthetic. And that could work really well. But then as it progressed, I started thinking more and more towards romantic and 20th century romantic. I started thinking of things like Vaughan Williams or even Holst. And it's interesting the way as the music progressed, at least up to this point, it started bringing all these ideas and connections to mind from my classical background. Not just making me say, oh, it reminds me of this, but more along the lines of, oh, this would be fun to experiment with, musically, to explore. Not because I don't like it as it is. It's not the classic story of someone gives you a pot of homemade soup and then you start adding seasonings just because you have to dress it up. It's not that. It's nice the way, it's good the way it is. I have nothing wrong with the way it is. It just, somehow, some music does this to me. It just starts feeding me ideas of different ways it could go, different ways it could be handled. And not all music does this. Not all music makes me relate to it in this way of, oh, the opportunities that are there. Some of it feels more established and and like it doesn't want to be, it's not asking, it's not inviting creativity and exploration and adaptation. But this is one of those that kind of feels like the invitation door is wide open. Interesting. Kind of a different tone color set here. Although the tempo is the same.
Don't think sorry's easily said. Don't try turning tables instead. Of chances before.
Ooh, that was an edgy moment.
Don't ask me, that's how it goes. 'Cause part of me knows what you're thinking. Don't say words you're gonna
Kind of a
don't let the fire
sort of a dulcimer sound, maybe? That moment is so dissonant.
Believe me, the sun in your eyes made some of the lies worth believing.
Okay. So I'm fascinated by how this piece is developing and how I am relating to it. The voice is a very, might I say, English sounding voice, not a solo voice, but more like the sort of tenor voice you might expect to hear in a choral setting. He could blend into an English choir and feel perfectly at home. Just his way of singing, at least, again, so far. But I'm fascinated by the way the instrument is treating texture and tone color, and it keeps a fairly light texture, but it keeps it active. There's this, I guess that's one of the things that makes me think towards Baroque styling. Whether you're thinking of lute or harpsichord or clavichord or even an orchestral setting where there are strings and stuff. There's a sort of lightness, a clarity to the instruments, both the way the notes are arranged, not really complex harmonies happening, and also the tone quality of the instruments themselves. And that is something that I find here very strongly and deliberately chosen. Same with the voice. It's light, it's clear. There isn't a lot that is thickening or kind of, shall I say, adding sauce over it. It is very clear and distinct. And I like that. I've always liked Baroque music for its lightness and clarity. Even when it gets incredibly powerful, there's still a degree of clarity to it, which is different than we find as the harmonic language becomes more tonally complex. So that's one of the things that's really standing out to me with this. And I'm enjoying also the melody of this. It has a kind of modern song feel, but at the same time, it also makes me think back to maybe some I don't think that I could identify a particular work or even a particular composer that this makes me think of. But it has a certain quality to it. It is very melodic, it is nicely shaped, but it's not your classic song shape at all. And so I'm going to say it's more like perhaps an aria from, I don't know, let's just say from an oratorio. And just for the sake of being easily connected to something you might know, I'm going to say, okay, how about the Messiah, Handel's Messiah, from which we have the great Hallelujah chorus. But there are so many other portions of it. Think of some of the tenor voice or arias in there, where you have these melodies. They're kind of a little bit more elaborate than you might sing in a choral setting, but they have a clarity and a lightness, a little bit ornate, but at the same time, incredibly melodic and beautiful. And that's what I'm hearing in the musical construct, the design of this melody that is being sung. I'm really curious what's going to happen next, because I feel like this may be the transition point to the next song, perhaps?
Gonna take any more, believe me, the sun in your eyes made some of the lies worth believing. I am the eye in the sky.
This is the chorus part.
I can read your mind. I am the maker of rules, dealing with fools. I can cheat you blind. And I
A little bit of
see any more to know that I can read your mind.
even the
Read your mind. I can read your mind. I can read your mind. Don't leave false illusion behind.
This is so interesting.
Don't
Again, it's the
cry. I ain't changing my mind. So find another fool like before. 'Cause I
There's that
ain't
really
gonna
dissonant
live
moment.
anymore believing some of the lies, while all of the signs are deceiving. I am the eye in the sky, looking at you. I can read your mind. I am the maker of rules.
So the chorus part, the refrain part is more identifiably, clearly modern. I can hear more of the modern song style, modern chorus style in it. And as I'm thinking about why does this make me look back so pointedly towards the Baroque and towards the things that I was talking about in the verse. I think a lot of it has to do with the actual shape and design of the melody of the verse. There are musical motifs and musical shapes, that musical ornamentations, ways in which the phrases travel, which are very familiar to me from that earlier music. And also I think it's the emotional design of the piece. This is not a piece which has a really in-your-face pouring yourself out, or I could say soul style, blues style, emotional faucet, shall I say? It's more stylized. It's more focusing on a certain musical feel, which is consistent across the phrases, across the verses, across the lines. There's a consistency to it all the way through, which is also an incredibly Baroque thing. And when it's so interesting because I was talking to a friend recently who said, look, I love Beethoven. Beethoven is basically my kindred spirit. I find my soul in Beethoven's music. Bach, I don't get it. And he wasn't saying Bach is useless, but at the same time he was saying it was meaningless to him. And I said to him, I said, well, I understand that because they're two very different musical styles, very different emotional expressions and even technical ways of handling the music. And if you're looking for a Beethoven experience, you won't find that in Bach. You won't. It doesn't exist in Bach because his whole way of relating to music, designing music, and the way in which he expressed emotion through music is completely different from the way Beethoven did. And I told him, look, if you're ever interested, I can explain some of the ways in which Bach expressed emotion and handled some of these very human things that make us connect to music, how he handled them and how he related to them. And I think perhaps understanding that will help you find a way of appreciating his music more. Will you ever feel very deeply connected? I don't know. Sometimes a person's just their eyes open and they're like, oh wow, this is my new world. Others, they can appreciate it on an intellectual level and maybe even somewhat emotionally, but it never really speaks to them deeply. And that is okay. Why am I saying this here? Because in this song, I'm hearing such a Baroque way of relating to emotion and musical expression. It's not so much about, this is a Baroque piece of music. No, it's more of the way in which the emotional content and the musical content and the lyrical content is handled and worked with. And if we are looking for a blues, soul, gospel, visceral rock experience in this music, you won't find it. So either this makes a lot of sense to you and you find you relate to it comfortably, or it might leave you feeling cold. For me, coming from my classical background, I'm enjoying this. I appreciate it. I like it. But it's not something that I would recommend to somebody who I think you would love this, if I don't know that they can connect to this. I wouldn't recommend it to my friend who I was talking about with Beethoven. I don't think that this would really mean that much to him. And it's interesting to meet this in a relatively modern piece. Okay, from the 80s, right? Relatively modern piece of music. To meet this same challenge, this same difference. Because as a classical musician, I think of it more in terms of the way in which, philosophically and religiously and politically and aesthetically, the world related to music back then. So much of it was shaped by that. Well, here I'm meeting something with a very similar approach in many ways. But we've passed through so much in history. And so this is kind of a strange experience for me to meet this and say, oh, really? So you still go back to that, but it's by choice. It's not just because it's the world of music that is available to you. And I find that incredibly fascinating.
So find another fool like before.
I love that moment of dissonance. even the percussion.
I can read your mind.
You could pull the drums out and fill that gap with some harpsichord continuo. It would work really well.
I don't need to see anymore to know that I can read your mind. 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 I am the eye in the sky, looking at you. I can read your mind. I am the maker of rules, dealing with fools. I can cheat you blind, and I don't need to see anymore to know that I can read your mind. I can read your mind. I can read your mind. I can read your mind.
Some harpsichord in the background. What an interesting experience for me. I also find it interesting how the lyrics are expressing the ideas. Don't think sorry is easily said. Don't try turning tables instead. You've taken lots of chances before, but I ain't gonna give any more. Don't ask me. That's how it goes, because part of me knows what you're thinking. Don't say words you're gonna regret. Don't let the fire rush to your head. I've heard the accusations before, and I ain't gonna take any more. Believe me. The sun in your eyes made some of the lies worth believing. So it starts out as a kind of, we might say, quarrel, a kind of statement of trust is broken and this is over. But then after that first passage, we end up with things like this. I am the eye in the sky. Looking at you, I can read your mind. I am the maker of rules, dealing with fools. I can cheat you blind, and I don't need to see any more to know that I can read your mind. Now, we can, of course, link that to what was said before. But what I find interesting is that as this progresses, and especially this chorus, it leaves me thinking that it's treating this in a sort of pseudo god-like manner. In other words, this person is being elevated to sort of divine being, the eye in the sky. I can see everything. I know the good, the bad. You don't need to tell me anything because I know everything. I know everything. And don't leave false illusions behind. Don't cry. I ain't changing my mind. So find another fool like before, because I ain't going to live anymore believing some of the lies, while all of the signs are deceiving. Yes, it's about humans, but it almost takes on a godlike level of knowing. And that too kind of throws me back to some of the classical handling of ideas of love and lovers and treachery, deceit, all of these things which were handled in fables, in stories of divine beings and all of this. It's so modern and yet so linked to so much of classical art, poetry, storytelling, music, and I'm really fascinated by this. I enjoyed it. And I find myself thinking, I'm really curious what else they put out, and is all their music kind of along these lines, or is this a single example that kind of stands out from the rest? So I might come back to them in the future at some point and explore more of them, because I do find these ideas interesting, and this piece, or these pieces, this pair of pieces has really made me curious. So that's my first time hearing the Alan Parsons Project, and of course my first time hearing Sirius, the instrumental, and Eye in the Sky, the song that follows it. And what an interesting experience it has been. I'll see you soon.